Oh, it's cold and raining and miserable and horrible out there, so I've come indoors to do this video, and it is 5 things you can do to avoid losing your money on Kickstarter. Now, Kickstarter is not a shop, and you have to be aware before you get involved that there really is no financial protection at all. If you invest money and the project goes wrong, there is a very good chance you're not going to get that money back. So as long as you're aware of that before you get started, then let's continue. So tip number 1 is to not jump on the bandwagon. Now, if a project is massively overfunded and everyone's getting involved, there's a huge chance it's actually going to fail. The reason for that is because as a creator, it's very easy to plan for the lower end. It's actually pretty hard to plan for those vast orders, and that's how a lot of projects do ultimately end up failing. If you see a project that you do really want to get behind and it is massively overfunded, my biggest advice would be to back it at $1, back it at a $5, buy one of their t-shirts. Just don't go jumping in full hog and buying the finished product, because that financial risk is enormous. Back it at those lower levels, get access to all the behind the scenes information, all of the updates, and when you see they are ready to ship, then you can pre-order it, having assumed none of the risk, and realistically only get it maybe a few days or even a week after everybody else. Tip number 2 is to avoid complex projects from first-time creators. Now, I'm not saying don't back first-time creators, because you need to start somewhere and the platform wouldn't work if you didn't back new people. What I'm saying is avoid or be cautious of those that are being a bit over ambitious. Now, if a project, especially if it involves electronics or an app or any software, they have a higher chance of failure because it's difficult. There are certification processes, and the whole assembly process is difficult. So if it's an electronics project with a lot of funding and it's quite complex and quite tricky looking, again, back it at that super low level of $1 or a $5, and then if it goes well, if they stick to their timeline, then you can pre-order it down the line, and again, not assume any of that risk. What's wrong with my light? Stay. Tip number 3 is to avoid injection molding. So if you're looking at a project and it's very reliant on injection molded parts, or say it is an injection molded part, chances are it's not going to work out, or it's going to be very, very late to arrive. If you look at those top 50 funded projects, you'll notice that a lot of them did rely on injection molded parts, and that is potentially the root cause for why many of them either never delivered or still haven't delivered, and backers are waiting for months or even years. Injection molding is not an easy process. You have to design the part, know what you're doing for the tooling, or the cooling's got to be taken into account, and all these other factors, and it's a real pain. And then it comes down to surface finish. If you're not happy with it, tool's got to be redone, and blah 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 blah. A big engineering companies struggle with injection molding, so a first-time creator or a small engineering outfit that have never done it before, chances are it's not going to go that well for them. It's not a reason not to back them as such, because we've all got to start somewhere. It is something to be aware of, especially if they're promising a short delivery window and you want the product in time for a certain trip or a birthday or an event. If they're promising injection molding, by all means, get involved and back it, but I would recommend you back it at those lower levels again, just because I can almost guarantee it's not going to arrive on time. Looking through Kickstarter, the evidence suggests that anything injection molding and Kickstarter never really goes to plan. Tip number 4 is to understand what stage your creator is at. Now, Kickstarter have made this a little bit easier in recent times by banning all photorealistic renderings, but it is still a tricky thing to understand if a project is just an initial concept, a working prototype, or a fully finished and ready to go product. Again, it ties into the injection molding one. If a product is injection molded, chances are in that campaign you're looking at a very high quality 3D print. Now, it might function the same, it might even look the same, but it is not the same. Going back to that list, an awful lot of the higher profile failures, they can be tied to either massive overfunding that just collapses them through sheer number of orders, injection molding parts that just they couldn't get right, or unfortunately launching a campaign with an incomplete prototype, having not fully thought it out, not fully field tested it, and then when it comes to it, turns out they couldn't make the product for the price they had promised originally. Tip number 5 is to do your research and only back what you can afford to lose. They always say when you go to a casino, only bet what you can afford to lose, and Kickstarter is a gamble. It is a risky investment, just like going to a casino is. By only backing what you can afford to lose, if something does go wrong, it's not going to be anywhere near as bad. And just because you've backed $1 or a $5 doesn't mean that down the line, when they are ready to start shipping them, you can't drop them a message and say, oh hey, I've looked at your progress, I'm really impressed, can I pre-order one now? And chances are, I've done it, you just say yes to those people, because great, I appreciate their support. Realistically, you'd only get it a few days behind everybody else. So you have it, my top 5 tips for anyone looking to back a project on Kickstarter. Now, What I'm trying to get across here is that Kickstarter accountability doesn't really exist. That's not a reason for you to avoid the platform. By all means, I think everyone should at least try crowdfunding. But yeah, you do assume as a backer all of the risks, so only back where you can afford to lose. Do that research up front, avoid anything massively overfunded, and just be super cautious of injection molding. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you have any tips or tricks of your own, please comment with them below. My name is Josh, and I actually make my living through crowdfunding. I've done 10 projects already with friends of my own design, and aim to do a lot more in the future. The aim of these videos really is to teach you my entire process from coming up with an idea through to prototyping, sourcing manufacturers, taking it onto Kickstarter and everything that comes with that. If you're in any way interested or know anybody that is interested, I'd really appreciate if you subscribed, and maybe if you have any questions, comment with them below and help sort of steer my initial videos. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.